It is compulsory for most people to wear a face covering in shops in England from today. But many retailers have said it's not up to them to enforce the rules. A covering must be worn in enclosed public spaces like supermarkets, indoor shopping centres, railway stations and takeaways, with a fine of up to £100 for someone who refuses to wear one. Keith Doyle reports.
Once a rare sight in shops, now covering your face is not only recommended, it's the law. The pandemic has changed everything. It's kept us in. Now we can go out, but it's brought new rules. In St Albans, shoppers have been adapting.
It's so much better now that people have got a clear idea what they're being asked to do.
I'm really pleased it's come in. It's given us more confidence to come to town. We've been avoiding it up until now.
From today in England, you must wear a face covering in shops and shopping centres as well as supermarkets. You also have to wear one in takeaways, but you can remove the face covering if you can sit down to eat on the premises. Restaurants, cinemas, salons, gyms and pubs are some of the places exempt from the rules. There are also exemptions for children under the age of 11 and people with disabilities or certain health conditions. There's a £100 fine for those who don't abide by the regulations, but the government hopes persuasion, not prosecution, will work.
We know that the vast majority of people do follow the rules, and there is the option for the police to be involved in enforcement and for there to be fines, but I really don't think we will need to go down that line because most people will follow the rules. People do take this very seriously.
But the police say they simply cannot confront every person not sticking to the rules.
We just don't have the capacity. We simply can't do it. Not to the level that some people expect, which is for us to be almost in every high street, in every store, and ensuring people are wearing a face covering. And that's why I've said very, very clearly that the retailers and those who are operating these stores or businesses, they also have a responsibility to educate the public.
At this bridal shop in Wakefield, they're not sure how easy it's going to be to make everyone stick to the rules.
I already have brides coming in that I do make them wear a mask in the changing rooms, but then they do want to take it off to look at themselves. It's very hard to envision how you look on your wedding day with a big mask on your face.
It's not compulsory for shop workers to wear face coverings, but the government is recommending that employers consider their use where appropriate. The rules are different across the UK. In Wales, face coverings will become mandatory on public transport from July the 27th. That's Monday. In Northern Ireland, they are already required on public transport, including ferries. And in Scotland, face coverings are compulsory in shops, libraries and on public transport. Taking a face covering with you when going out shopping will now have to be as routine as remembering your keys, your purse or your wallet. And while shoppers are adapting, retailers are also. Keith Doyle, BBC News.
Well, our correspondent Danny Savage has been out and about in Northallerton today. How have people been responding to these new rules, do you think, Danny?
Pretty positively, Jane. Northallerton is the county town of North Yorkshire, and the high street behind me has several dozen different types of shops here along the main street. So there's a department store, there's takeaways, there's banks, there's small independent businesses as well. And we haven't yet talked to a trader yet here in this town today who believes that they've had to deal with somebody who either refused to or didn't want to or wasn't going to put on a mask. Everybody has been wearing a face covering when they've gone into the shops, and in fact most people are wandering up and down the high street in between shops without taking their face coverings off. So take Barker's department store just over my shoulder here. That's allowed 110 people inside at any one time due to social distancing, and that's coping with them at the moment. But the worry for all of these traders here is how long does this go on for? If they arrive at Christmas and all these regulations are still in place with social distancing and face coverings, they really do worry about what that will mean for their trade over the Christmas period and going forward. So it's something that they're worried about in the long run. The rules have changed in England today. It's already compulsory to wear face masks in Scotland. In Wales and Northern Ireland, it's not compulsory to wear them in shops at the moment. So people are getting used to the new rules and seem to be going along with it at this time. Jane.
All right, Danny. Thank you, Danny Savage. Well, now that face coverings must be worn in many locations across England and Scotland, what are the do's and don'ts? Dr. Nilafar Ahmed from the University of Bristol has some answers.
Doesn't have to be a mask, it can be anything that we're wearing. For example, I'm wearing a scarf now, you can use that. We must make sure that our nose and mouth are fully covered and it fits really snugly. So like this, and you could just tighten the scarf around you and that would be fine to go into a shop. If you are wearing a mask that has elastic straps, you want to hold it by the strap. First of all, have really clean hands, wash your hands. If you're out and about, have a little hand sanitizer that you can quickly rub on. And if you have one of these pleated masks, you want the pleats facing downwards so that if there are any particles in the air, they're not being caught in the pleats. So if you had it the wrong way around, they could potentially go into those folds. So the right way is to have the folds going down, put it on across your face and loop it on one ear, then loop it on the other. If it's got a metallic strip, you really want to be pushing that down so that it fits snugly across your face. If we don't do this, then people who wear glasses will often say that their glasses get steamed up. That's because the air is going up and it's not staying within the mask. Always keep them in a plastic bag. A Ziploc disposable bag like this is great, then you can carry a couple at a time. To wash them, make sure the water's really hot, at least 60 degrees, and make sure that they're sort of put out to dry naturally and fully clean before you put them back on.
Dr. Niloufar Ahmed there from the University of Bristol. Nearly half the population of England, about 30 million people, are to be offered a flu vaccine this winter in an attempt to prevent a surge of flu cases coinciding with an expected increase in coronavirus. The NHS vaccination programme will be extended to everyone over the age of 50, children in their first year of secondary school and people living with anyone who's shielding. Our health correspondent Catherine Burns has more.
If the government gets its way, this winter more than half the people in England will get this, the flu jab, or this, the nasal spray for children. It's offering the flu vaccine to more people than ever before. Normally, it's free to those who are pregnant, anyone 65 or older, or people with certain medical conditions, as well as pre- and primary school-aged children. This winter, though, it'll be extended to over 50s, children in the first year of secondary school, people who've been shielding and anyone they live with. The Prime Minister visiting a GP in London. Listen out for his slightly muffled view on people who don't believe in vaccination.
Because there's all these anti-vaxxers now, isn't it?
Well, Marina can tell you a little bit about how we've achieved. Nuts, he says. He couldn't be clearer, though, on why this vaccination programme is being extended.
The reason for doing this is to protect the NHS in the winter months, because obviously we've still got COVID, we've still got the threat of a second spike of COVID, and it's vital, therefore, to keep that pressure off the NHS by everybody getting a flu jab, and I really hope everybody will.
He hopes they will, but will they? Last year, 25 million people in England were eligible for the free vaccine. More like 15 million actually had it. Flu can be serious and it kills thousands of people every year. Doctors say it's sensible to tackle this head on, but they need more information on how they will vaccinate millions more people at a time when they're already under pressure to keep surgeries COVID secure.
The 7,000 which the practice had have to do normally out of a practice population of 20,000 is going to have to be ramped up to about 10,000 people. So there's going to be a logistics issue, but it's absolutely the right move.
This will start in September, and the most at-risk groups will be invited for a vaccine first. Eventually, it will roll out to the over 50s too. Plans for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have not yet been announced. One glimmer of hope. We're now used to hand washing, social distancing and wearing masks, all to stop coronavirus spreading. Maybe they'll also fight the flu. Catherine Burns, BBC News.
As shops have started to reopen, new figures show total retail sales returned almost to pre-lockdown levels in June. Food shops did particularly well, and there's been a big shift towards online. £3 in every 10 was spent on internet purchases. But the high street is still struggling, with clothing sales down. Our business correspondent Emma Simpson has all the details.
The day the high street reopened, queues everywhere for the most popular shops. Retail is now recovering from lockdown and the record decline in sales, but it's far from business as usual. Take this jewellery shop in Watford, a family-run business that's been ticking over for 144 years. Dan runs it now and says sales are going in the right direction, but times have definitely changed.
It's a small shop, as you know. It used to get packed, and obviously we can't do that now because we're limited on numbers. So I can't see it going back to the levels it was.
So how positive are you, Dan?
50-50.
Because it all depends on consumers.
Absolutely, yeah. They need to get out there and start spending, and then the cogs can start turning and we can all have a slice.
In June, if you exclude food, overall sales on the high street were still 33% lower than before the pandemic. Online sales, though, were up 54%, driving much of the growth. Have you been splashing the cash post-lockdown?
Not at all. I'm still being really careful.
A lot more online, obviously, but yeah, we've been spending the same amount, to be fair.
Since I've been able to get out, a few more bits and pieces, bits for the garden. I expect a lot of people have been gardening.
A few treats.
A few treats as well, yes. Mainly chocolate.
Watford's a popular shopping destination. The mall dominates the town. And here you can see the dramatic changes in retail as our shopping habits change. Since lockdown, it's lost Debenhams and now John Lewis. The shutters never to reopen. A huge blow.
We face big challenges at the moment with the closure of John Lewis and Debenhams here, and so the key thing for us is to adapt to that and to make sure that we can continue to welcome people into the town centre. We know we've got to adapt and change because the world around us is changing.
John Lewis has been the anchor store in this shopping centre for 30 years, and it wasn't even paying any rent. Even so, like many other retailers, it says the store just isn't financially viable, given how much shopping is now online. It's good news for retailers that sales are growing, but they're all now having to adapt. Emma Simpson, BBC News, Watford.